Roy Casagranda returns to the Plutopia podcast this time as we revisit the chaos that was 2025. We look at social media's impact on society, the Trump foreign policy, AI, the midterm elections, and the possibility of an American monarchy.
The definition of monarchy is one person rules. It's not necessarily that it's hereditary. So what the United States has basically done is Congress doesn't function anymore, and the Supreme Court is handing the power over to the presidency, and the president is ruling through executive orders. And so at that point, that's the definition of a monarchy. You could have it so that you elect the monarch every 4 years. But the Constitution James Madison wrote us was meant for Congress to be in charge, not Congress to be the rubber stamp for the president. And that's where we are. We're in a situation where we have devolved into a monarchy. Osama bin Laden's in his grave laughing his head off like, wow, I triggered US idiocy to the point where Americans can't get their heads out of 9/11. And here it is 24 years later, and they voted for this maniac who's destroying the empire. He did more damage to the United States than could have been imaginable. Well, the United States did all the damage.
Welcome to the Plutopia News Network podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, John Lepkowski, and I'm joined by Wendy Grossman and Scoop Sweeney. And we are brought to you by absolutely no sponsor. We are just publishing without any hope of revenue. So, though, if you want to send us money, that's okay. Go to our website at plutopia.io and you can see how to do that. Anyway, today our guest on a return visit, and we love for Roy to visit us, Roy Casagranda is here again. And Roy is a government professor, a lecturer, a speaker, author, and producer. I saw that on your list of things. What do you produce?
So I am working on a movie and a TV series right now.
Wow. That's fantastic, Roy.
Yeah, it's fun. It's weird too.
What are those about?
They're both actually about the same moment in history. It's about 7th century Arabian Peninsula when Islam is born, just shortly afterwards. So
a long time before they built Dubai.
Yeah, a long time before Dubai was anything but a tiny village. Because Dubai was a tiny village when my mother went to it in the 60s.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's big now.
It's huge. It's insane.
We invited you to join us as the year is ending because we were going to kind of talk about where things are at the end of the year. And it feels a little bit like we're in a shithole, but what do you think?
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I think 2025 is going to go down as another garbage year in a series of garbage years. And it feels like, yeah, the American voter is really bad at learning lessons and it insists on continuously repeating the same mistake over and over again.
I've labeled this year a cornucopia of crap.
Yeah, that's very good.
Well, the first and actually main question I wanted to ask you, though we have several questions, but I was just thinking if I was like a relatively nonpartisan observer, and I was near enough to the seat of power to see what's really going on in the world, based on direct observation, not based on news reports, which are increasingly, fraught, I guess. How would the world look to me right now? What assumptions would I see driving the decisions that the powerful people in the world are making?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question for so many reasons, but one of them is it, from my perspective, so many of the decisions look really irrational. They look like they're driven by not just base instincts, but the self-destructive instincts and impulses. And it feels like the bigger the state is, with there are exceptions, of course, but the worse the decisions are that get made. And the smaller the state is, the better the decisions are. And that's of course not a great formula because the big states are the powerful states and throw their weight around. So it makes me wonder, like, what's the calculation? Are we running out of fresh water and they're panicking? Is it a food crisis because we know we're going to head towards one in the next few years? As sea levels rise, we're going to lose coastal cities. So, like what happens when Miami goes? Is that what's driving the crazy? Is it, people have realized that northern Canada and Greenland are going to be great pieces of real estate in the next few years? But even then, none of it makes sense because why pick a war with Venezuela? Why why set up concentration camps in India? Why have concentration camps in China? Like, why are we heading in this direction? It feels like somebody woke up one day and went, you know what was a great year? 1933. I think we should redo that year. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why anybody would like that year. Yet that's what it feels like we just did.
How much of that do you think is due to the increase and prevalence of social media in everything, not just online, but it seems to be present in every decision being made lately.
I mean, I think social media has had the effect of obviously dumbing us down at some level. And I think part of it is a generational thing. So I think Gen Z is a little immune to social media. I don't think it's quite as trapped as, say, X generation is. Um, I think what happened was we weren't prepared for the power of social media and the addictiveness of it, and we didn't have an appropriate sense of cynicism when it came to technology. And as a result, we got really sucked into this thing without any reflection, without any self-reflection, without any thinking about what are the consequences going to be. And, we're not the customer, we're the product. That we are intentionally giving up our information to advertisers for free, willingly and happily. But then the algorithm is designed to drive you into tunnels. And that those tunnels end up making people dumb because they don't have anything to challenge their ideas, and they just spin and they self-brainwash. So the
Yeah,
irony of ironies is we have the most powerful instrument for information gathering in the universe, and I think we might be in the dumbest period in human history.
see, I have a completely different theory, which is that the system hasn't been working for a lot of people for a long time. And,
Yeah,
I don't think I think if you're struggling and you have 3 jobs and you have no health care, and at least that would apply in the States, not most other places, and life keeps getting more expensive, broadcast television becomes cable television, becomes streaming. Um, you know, no one is answering the needs that you have. And I think there's plenty of frustration to boil over even without social media.
I mean, I agree. I think what social media has done is we've become addicted to the dopamine hits we get off of our devices. And the result of that is that instead of doing what we need to do, which is, more protesting, economic boycotting, right? Using our labor power through unions to go on strikes, instead we just angrily post on social media. And the feedback of that is it's like 1984 where they have the hour of hate or anger. I forget what it was. It wasn't even a full hour, right? It was 10 minutes of shouting. And I think that's what social media has become for most of us. It's paranoia and anger and rage. And it's a way to channel it instead of allowing it to become a force for good.
I have to confess, I have chosen different social media than that. I
Okay.
think, Mastodon seems to me a very positive experience generally. I mean, I think that's not
Very
true
cool.
for everybody, but in general. And again, it doesn't have an algorithm. And lots of things don't have algorithm. You can use X without an algorithm.
Kind of, yeah,
Blue Sky, you can
but
use
most
Blue
people
Sky
don't.
You can use Blue Sky either without an algorithm or with an algorithm you choose. It's the really big ones, the TikTok and Facebook
Facebook.
and to X, would if you'll let it, that are really, and Instagram, that are much more
But
algorithm.
when you post on X, you get such toxic responses. And what's crazy is it's meaningless. It's just shouting at each other. There's no conversation taking place. I don't understand what anybody gets out of that. It's just nastiness. It's like where people go to become sixth graders again.
No real information sharing, really. If
There's no
anything, it's
information sharing. You're just
disinformation.
shouting
Actually,
at each
even the
other.
Well, though, one of the former community manager of the Well once said to me that she thought a lot of the behavior online was playing out high school angst. And that was
Yeah,
Well,
I think
which
it's
is a
Middle East honest.
relatively literary social media.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. On the Well, we have a lot of seniors, people in their 70s, playing out high school angst. That's just weird.
There
But
is something about online that was spotted, go all the way back to the 1980s. There was a professor named Sarah Kiesler who wrote a book based on a study of corporate in-house email. And she found the same flame wars and sort of outrage that you see now. It's just that, at that time you didn't have, it wasn't in anybody's particular interest to foster it, whereas now it is.
Right.
You want high school angst? Go on Truth Social sometime. Be sure and get some disinfectant to put on your computer afterwards. But listening to the Trump version of social media is, well, not listening, but looking at it is just horrifying.
where all
I
the
can't
playground
imagine
bullies go to hang out.
that in
Yeah.
X.
Well, I was realizing, thinking about Facebook in particular, but really the algorithm-driven sites, including X, if you're not using just your follow feed, um, there's an algorithm, and the way the algorithms work is that if you post something and people are responding to it, then they show it to more people, but only
Yeah.
if people are responding to it. So there has to be initial engagement, and the more engagement there is, the more they show it to people.
Even if it's
People,
negative
I think,
engagement.
yeah, right. And people generally assume that when they post something, people see it, right? But you can be posting stuff and nobody may be seeing what you're posting.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of true for, because I don't engage as much as I used to on the former Twitter and on Blue Sky is different in that there's a way to have multiple algorithms. You can just have a list that you look at, and they don't really jack with an algorithm that's set up to decide what you're going to engage with. I mean, that's kind of the problem. They set these algorithms up to decide what is likely to be the most engaging thing and share the information based on that. And because of that, nobody's really, I mean, you may have 1,000 friends on Facebook, and you're probably just seeing what a tiny percentage of them are posting at any given time.
In cyberspace, no one can see your screaming post.
Or your high school angst. Well,
Or your middle school.
I have kind of a follow-up to kind of talking about government again. We could certainly talk more about social media, but I was seeing this thing where Susan Rice was saying that Trump is committing superpower suicide because he's
Yeah.
changing the U.S. from a global superpower to a regional great power so that like he rules the Americas and he tries to steal Canada and Greenland and all that. Russia gets to have Europe, China gets Asia, maybe gets Africa, and that's just crazy. And why would the leader of the world's superpower want to cede that and just become a more regional power, if a power at all?
I can't for the life of me figure out what Trump or the oligarchs in the United States or the Republican Party is thinking because his first term was a catastrophe in terms of alliance. What his refusal to recognize Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, like how many years did the Soviet Union try to split the United States from West Germany? Like that was their goal. If we can get the FRG and the USA to break up, we'll win the Cold War. And decade after decade after decade, the Russians had absolutely zero impact on that relationship. And then Trump comes and boom, smashes the relationship. So if you hate the United States empire, I'm not exactly the biggest fan. Right now, looks like a pretty good deal because the United States empire is tearing itself to shreds. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why. And I get he's transactional to the point of idiocy, but what I can't figure out is why he's being allowed to by the oligarchs. Like, don't the oligarchs love the empire? Don't they enjoy the fact that the United States has its soldiers in 75% of the world's states? And we don't even know what they're doing there. We don't even know why they're there. Like, are they extracting mineral resources? Like, what is the purpose? And now Trump's like, we don't want to do it anymore. Screw Korea, screw Japan, screw Germany. And I can't figure out the logic. It's so irrational.
I would.
But Osama bin Laden's in his grave laughing his head off. Like, wow, I triggered US idiocy to the point where Americans can't get their heads out of 9/11. And here it is 24 years later, and they voted for this maniac who's destroying the empire. He did more damage to the United States than could have been imaginable. Well, the United States did all the damage, but
I would go into a big rant about what Putin has on Trump that's making him be so Putin friendly. But I don't want Ice Barbie to be showing up knocking at my door because she realizes that I'm just a tool of Antifa. I've got my Antifa bomb right here that I've. That I picked up. They don't realize that Acme actually is the weapons provider for Antifa.
well, I didn't know
Yeah,
that either.
let me send you back where you came from if you're ready to go back to Big Spring.
Well, I'm back where my people came from, but
That's
they're
true.
they're being hated by the administration as well. If you're of Native American descent, you're on their list.
There was a thing I was saying the other day that if an alien from another planet showed up, without any preconceptions about Earth and Earth's governments and so forth, and did a bit of analysis on what Donald Trump is doing with his administration, that they would make the assumption that he was trying to eliminate as many human beings as he can, that he just wanted people to die. And I mean, the logic, if you apply logic to some of the things he's doing, um, that seems to be the project.
I have a friend who believes that he's intentionally trying to crash the economy because he knows that the average American has a 2-year political memory. I don't even think it's 2 years anymore. I think it's 2 weeks, but it used to be 2 years when political scientists were measuring it. And he wants to crash the economy before we get to the midterm elections so that it can already be in the process of recovery. So Americans will think, oh, it was bad, but it's getting better. So that when he runs for president for the third time, he'll be, I got us out of the worst depression ever created, and it was created by Joe Biden. And then he'll win a third term.
He
No, that's
he seems to love uh, people as consumers because all the products out there from the Trump organization. Let's go
Yeah.
buy some cologne and sneakers and Bibles and God knows what's going to be next.
one thing that I was hearing, and this is about why people are conceding to him and being so kind of sycophantic and lovey-dovey with him and all that, people within his administration. Um, that they are aware that he's dying and they're trying to be, you know, make him feel really good, right up to the point that he drops. Um, I don't know. I see flaws in that, but I do wonder about him. I mean, I wonder about his health, and I wonder about, the the evidence that he's been getting intravenous feeds and the just kind of, I mean, he's been posting a lot of really crazy stuff.
Let's talk about snakes.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you do? Another question is, we've got a Supreme Court that appears to be completely supportive of this, what do they call it? The unitary executive, and Trump being the unitary executive, a guy who's probably least qualified of anybody who's ever been in that office. And he's got a Supreme Court that's propping him up any way that they can. And what can we do about the Supreme Court? If the Supreme Court decides that the Constitution is just a piece of paper and that their role is to support a fascist dictator,
I
what do
mean,
you
I
do
think the
about them?
Supreme Court has decided that. That's exactly where the Supreme Court is.
Right.
Um, if you look at all the decisions that have been made, at least since 2022, there's just one terrible. Actually, honestly, the Supreme Court's almost always on the wrong side. Buck v. Bell, 1927. Just you don't even have to do the recent ones, but since 2022, they're outrageous. The Supreme Court rulings, and unitary executive. Well, that's a euphemism for monarch. I'm not against monarchy. I just think you should have a good monarch. I think having a 70 IQ blithering idiot's a really dumb idea.
Well, the thing about monarchies is you don't get to choose your monarch. It is chosen by lineage and accidents of birth and accidents of fornication and things like that. Speaking
Well,
as somebody who lives in a country with a monarch.
I mean, I live in absolute monarchy, and I'm actually quite fine with it. But that's mostly because the leadership here is insanely amazing. Um, you could have an electoral monarchy. The definition of monarch is one person rules. It's not necessarily that it's hereditary. So what the United States has basically done is Congress doesn't function anymore. And the Supreme Court is handing the power over to the presidency, and the president is ruling through executive orders. And so at that point, that's the definition of a monarchy. You could have it so that you elect the monarch every 4 years. But the Constitution James Madison wrote us was meant for Congress to be in charge, not Congress to be the rubber stamp for the president. And that's where we are. We're in a situation where we have devolved into a monarchy. And I'm saying devolved because I'm not against monarchy necessarily, because that wasn't the intention of the Constitution, but it looks like that's the intention of the Supreme Court.
They're not even rubber stamping Congress. I mean, they're just
They're not passing
staying out of
things.
the way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Really, Congress stopped functioning at least since 2007. It was always bad, or it was bad in the decades prior to that, but by 2007, it really just fell apart. So it's been 18 dysfunctional years.
I was always a big fan of all the high-tech stuff going on until I realized that they have basically sold out to Trump. Look at these meetings that they've been having, and suddenly tech is benefiting because the government is saying, "Oh, it's okay to suck up all of our energy because we need all those data centers out there that that create
Yeah.
crypto and AI, and there's little towns here in Texas that are just being taken over because they're remote and they have no real power of any sort. So they are being invaded by these data centers that just take over and promise lots of jobs that never seem to arrive. But that's becoming really common throughout the United States, is just the onslaught of unchecked technological imminent domain. Really, is what it is.
Yeah, and it not just eats up our energy; it fuels global warming. And I'm still trying to figure out what we're getting out of it. I mean, the artwork sucks. AI is stupid. Like you can't ask it a factual question; it will get it wrong. So at that point, and if you get into an argument with AI, it'll just loop to loop, and it'll keep saying, "Oh, you have a good point." However, and you're like, dude, you know what I mean? Like I don't know why we're doing this. It doesn't
Why,
make any sense.
why would you bother arguing with an AI? It'd be like playing fetch with a robot dog. I mean,
I mean,
it's not,
that's what it is.
It's
But
entertaining
I've
for a
seen that
while.
commercial. They have a puppy now that's a AI controlled robot puppy that you can buy for your kid.
well, they've
Will
had
it
those for a
fetch?
long time.
I don't think it'll fetch, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Or if it does fetch, it fetches very, very slowly.
I I've actually had some pretty good experiences using an AI, but I always use it just to kind of support what I'm doing, sort of like I don't know, like using a search engine versus just poking around the internet trying to find things. So an AI can go out and it can retrieve and analyze information for me, and it can feed me stuff. The downside is that I have to be extremely cautious with the information that I get from an AI. I can't assume that it's
Yeah.
correct
Well, the problem is
because,
which AI?
well, in my case, I've used ChatGPT quite a bit. I've used Claude quite a bit, and I've used Perplexity. I think those are the only ones I've really used
Yeah,
very
I mean, a
much.
friend of mine, for example, finds that if he's stuck on a problem trying to, the basic technology problem, trying to install something that's being recalcitrant, that asking Perplexity for what he might need to fix or look at actually does seem to work well for him.
Yeah,
Yeah, something
and
technical like that. You're
Yeah,
like you're playing a game and you want to ask it a rule. It'll probably get it right. If you're
but
asking,
that's going to get worse over time as it gets trained on more and more slop. That's the problem. You don't know when to stop
yeah,
trusting it.
well, I
man, if
mean,
you
it's
ask it
hard to
what
say. I
happened
mean,
in
it's more than,
1453,
well, there's more to it than just like the data feeds that they're training it on. There's more to AI than like people think, well, it's just all AI does is predict the likely next word, but there's a lot more to it than that. And it's fairly complex, and they're continually trying to make it better and more accurate and so forth. And I find ChatGPT far more accurate now than it was when I first used it. And uh,
Are you
despite the
sure that
fact,
it's not, you're sure it's not that you've become less accurate?
I, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, I get that point. Um, and I certainly, as I said before, I have to be vigilant about it. But one thing I can do is like say I have clinical notes that include a lot of medical jargon, and I can feed those into say ChatGPT or one of those AIs and say, explain this to me in plain English, and I get a pretty good summary in plain English.
I thought that was what
Uh,
the well was for.
um, I'm trying to get just a single summary, not a whole range of many opinions.
The thing that concerns me is the companies that are saying AI is going to allow us to get rid of all these employees, and it's happening.
yeah,
And that is concerning because those employees were um, good sources of new products, new policies, and I can't really see AI coming up with these new developments. They basically are going to be good little robots to do whatever the boss wants it to, and not have to pay them or give them health care.
Well, this is one of my favorite lines of Cory Doctorow's. An AI chatbot can't do your job, but an AI salesman can convince your boss to fire you and give your job to to a chatbot.
And Wendy, a minute ago, I made that comment about using the well on the healthcare thing, and I shouldn't have said that really because um, I know from experience that patient communities, people, especially people gathering together where many of them have had the same like condition and similar experience and so forth, and they're all learning a lot about their condition. And it's much more powerful than an AI to consult with your community of e-patients who are
And
having a similar
also,
circumstance.
and also a site like the Well, there's always some people who are doctors or who have medical knowledge where they actually do give you very good information. I mean, there's some famous stories about the Well along those lines.
Yeah, and that gets to, Cory Doctorow's thing about team human, that we shouldn't
Is that Corey or
concede
is
to
that Doug Rush? I
technology.
thought that was Doug Rushkoff.
Did I say Corey? Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's Doug Rushkoff. So Rushkoff, um, I mean, his podcast is Team Human, and it's the thrust of all of his arguments lately. And I think he's looking a lot at AI and thinking a lot about AI. And I don't think he's completely dismissive of AI, but it's like AI has to be relegated to the right place in a conversation, and AI should not be, for instance, making decisions, but it might support decisions.
The problem is then you give it to a human to use as a tool. We've seen this over and over with machine learning systems, and before that with rules-based systems, and before that with any other sort of computer system. The human will follow what the computer says because they won't get fired for doing that. But they will get fired for using their own judgment and costing the company money.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the challenge that we have. The challenge that we have is to make correct human use of these machines, and certainly not to concede authority to these machines. What do you think, Roy?
I mean, I think one of the big exciting ways in which people are thinking about using these machines is to completely concede authority when it comes to policy implementation. And so when you think about how complex policy is, if you're a big state especially, and you try to implement policy, there's going to be lots of mistakes. There's going to be lots of externalities, right? Unexpected consequences. So if you can just hand it over to AI, the hope is that the algorithm will figure out how to avoid some of those mistakes. But then the best part is when they happen, there's nobody to blame. When there's an externality, there's no one to blame. Oh, it was AI's fault. And then AI will be more efficient in some ways, like if it's running stoplights, right? It can regulate the traffic and it can figure out how to make it more efficient. So in that way, I think AI could be really great. It might be great for running electrical power, for example. But when it comes to something more complicated, like school financing, or when it comes to something that has, especially something that has social implications, I'm really nervous about adding more AI to our world. We already have so little autonomy. So the idea of turning it over to this black box, this machine, is really, really disturbing to me.
The AI slop that has overwhelmed the court system by these attorneys who just will do a pleading and it's all AI and it's just it references non-existent precedents in law, and it's like you can't really do that, but the courts are just being smothered by AI slop pleadings and filings.
So I had a student turn in a paper that was clearly written by AI. I mean, obviously more than one paper, but this one paper cited me from a book that I didn't write in 2024. And I was like, wow.
Well, you better look out for those royalties from that non-existent book.
Yeah, I know. I wonder how it's selling.
Well,
I was, oh, I was just saying, I was using a fact checker, an AI fact checker that a friend of mine's been developing, uh, and I asked about a comment that Steve O'Bannon was quoted as having made at the Turning Point USA conference that's been going on, or festival, or whatever the hell they call it. Anyway, he made a pretty nasty comment about Rob Reiner, and I asked this AI about it, and he said, "Well, the comment the guy made was obviously wrong because Rob Reiner is alive and well,
Ah,
you know." And of course he's not, and it's like it was completely wrong.
Well, it was, Reiner was alive when the AI was trained.
Probably that may very well be. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's one problem with AIs is that they're not necessarily up to date with the information that they're holding. So if you ask them about current events, they may not know what the hell's going on.
Which means that every AI chatbot should have a notice reminding you where the end date of its knowledge is.
That's a really great idea. I don't know. I have a futurist friend, Jake Dunnigan, who uh, um, I I was part of it. Like futurists do these panels with people they bring in, sort of like a focus group, and the scenario that he had constructed, this was a few years ago, but I always think about this scenario he had, and it was about he was doing a project for a city that was sort of a moderately sized city, and the project he was working on had to do with the future of government, I think, for cities like that. And the scenario that he constructed was a scenario looking at a future mayor's office. And in this scenario, the former mayor had been an AI, and the federal government had passed a law saying that cities could not use AIs as mayors anymore because they were fucking things up so much. And you know, it's kind of like, right, but you could still use an AI for decision support, but then AI can't make the decisions because they're going to be wrong a lot of the time.
it's going to be an interesting world when we do this.
There's a lot of AI development in Dubai, isn't there, Roy?
Oh yeah, I think Dubai is, but I want to say fifth in the world for AI development. When you think about it, it's a country with 11 million people. Being fifth is insane. It shouldn't be that highly ranked.
Well, one of the things that AI has done is it's taken the focus off of cryptocurrency, and that's just one of the more scary things that's out there. I, I went into a liquor store to buy some wine, and they had a crypto ATM set up there.
Oh,
You could buy your cryptocurrency right there in the liquor store, so you get drunk and you can spend all your money on non-existent money.
right, Ponzi scheme.
Yes, and that's the source of a lot of the data centers here in Texas is crypto mining, and I, I'm just amazed at people continuing to believe that's going to be taking over, because basically it's become the realm of criminal financing and money laundering.
So, uh, as the year ends, as 2025 ends, we're reaching the end of the first year of Trump 2.0, and we're going into 2026, um, which is a year in which there'll be a lot of campaigning for the midterm elections. And there's a hope that among Democrats that they'll be able to take that there will be so much disillusionment with Trump and the Republicans that the Democrats will be able to take control of Congress and the Senate and start kind of reining things in to some extent. And I just wonder about that. And I wonder whether the Democrats can really take control. They seem to be kind of, I mean, it's a party that has seemed pretty lost for a long time. Uh, and I wonder whether they're actually the ones who can do it, or where we can find the alternative, to get us back into a reasonable and sane kind of governance. What do you think, Roy?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate everybody. Uh, if you went on a road trip, you were probably paying what, $100 a night at a motel, and now you're paying $300 a night. And I think that's incredible. Like the price went down. It went down from $100 a night to $300 a night. You're saving so much money now. And eggs are what are you paying now? It's 30 cents, something like that for a dozen eggs. So that's money in your pocket. Like Trump has made the economy so great again. I tried to buy something on Etsy and it asked me, where are you? And I said UAE, but then I accidentally typed in USA and the price shot up. It went from $300 to $550. And I was like, oh, it's coming from Canada tariffs. That's so cool. When I was in Canada earlier this year, there was when we were renting cars in the airport, when we were renting a car in the airport, they were like, "Oh, we have a bunch of Mercedes. It's the same price as the car you rented, and go get one." And I'm like, "Why do you have a bunch of Mercedes?" They go, "Well, he just sent them to California, but the tariffs kicked in, so they got rejected and driven back to Canada." And like you guys must be having such a good time in this brand new, glorious, make America great economy. I envy you. I envy you being in the center of it all. And
You know, the last
I
time I
wanted to
picked
start
up
off
a,
with that.
the last time I picked up a prescription, um, I tried to get the pharmacy to give me $400. They wanted me to pay for the prescription, but Trump has told me that my prescription costs have gone down 600%. So they should be paying me to take the prescription.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And his war on fentanyl has saved like, what was it? Was it 200 million lives already? Just since he's been in the presidency. So that's incredible. And then he's against starting wars. So that's
Yeah,
nice that he's sinking those ships or boats in
yeah,
Venezuelan boats.
those nasty Venezuelans. Yeah, he got their attention. He only had to kill 100 of them, and or whatever
Yeah,
he's claiming
to
now.
stop fentanyl. Yeah, because
Yeah,
everybody knows fentanyl's from Venezuela.
yeah,
It's like,
by way
yeah,
of China, which comes
of
into
China.
and all of the fentanyl is coming into the United States through the ports of entry. That's how they've always done it, and that's how it's being done now. So Venezuela is
Yeah.
just the latest whipping boy for you know people who don't want to admit that they're not taking care of their borders.
He's upset with Venezuela because they mucked with all the voting machines in 2020 and made him lose the election.
Is that what happened?
Don't you remember that? They were saying, "Oh, the voting machines are coming from Venezuela and they've been doctored," and that was one of the arguments.
Okay, so now that we got all the congratulatories out of the way, you asked the question, is the Democratic Party the party to stop him? So I want to remind everybody, you know how they say history repeats itself? In 2016, we elected Trump. In 2018, we gave both houses of Congress to the Democrats to rein him back in. And then in 2020, he tried to overthrow the government. And then we reelected him in 2024. And now everybody's hoping that we'll give both houses of Congress back to the Democrats in 2026. What do you think is going to happen in 2030? Like, what are the odds that he won't try to overthrow the government? And I just want to point out how stupid that whole process is.
In
Like,
2030,
oh my
how old
God.
will Trump be in 2030?
83.
Will he be alive in
I think
2030?
he'll be going into the negative years, but by then.
It'll be more than 83, won't it? I mean, that's 5 years
I
from
thought he
now.
was elected at 79, the second round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could be
he,
wrong.
he is my age because we are both born in the month of June, 1946.
Well, actually, it's 2028, right? That's when the next election is. Is that next
Yeah. Oh,
presidential
did I say
election?
2030? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
2028.
Well, what
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
need to do is we just need to dig up H. Ross Perot again and get the old Reform Party going. That was such a big success.
I don't think he will be elected in 2028 because the constitutional amendment is actually clear that you
Oh,
can't
that's just
be
a piece of
elected 3
paper, you
times.
know that.
If he's going to serve a third term, it will be by some other means.
Well, the thing is, how are you going to stop him if Republicans agree to nominate him? And I mean, I guess states can refuse to put him on the ballot, but I just don't know. I mean, he's doing all kinds of things that are illegal and unconstitutional, and
Yeah.
nobody knows how to stop him.
And the Supreme Court will just back him up.
Right.
So if you're hoping for the Supreme Court to step in,
It's like this
it's
Kennedy Center thing. So he changed the name of the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center, and they're hanging a big sign that says Trump Kennedy Center, but it's not, he doesn't have the authority to change the name of the Kennedy Center, but they're still hanging the sign or,
yeah, it's the Department
taking
of
down the
War.
east wing of the White House. He didn't have the authority to do that. I mean, he wasn't following the proper channels to do that, but nobody stopped him from tearing it down.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. This is politics 101. You can do whatever you can get away with. And if he runs for office, I don't see how anybody can stop him. The Supreme Court will just say you don't have standing if somebody sues during the election. So the only time you would be able to sue would be after he was actually elected. And then the Supreme Court will go, well, he's already been elected. It's too late. And I like he'll get a third term. And the crazy thing is there's going to be a population of people in the U.S. who are going to go vote for him. And
Yeah,
I just can't figure out why we're on this road.
one can only hope that the uh, internal strife in the Republican Party right now is that it will grow and become an unmanageable party because the Turning Point USA get together this week has had a lot of infighting. People want to make Kurt's widow the head of everything, and other people think that's just crazy, but they're all fighting. Marjorie Taylor Greene is defecting. I never
Yeah.
thought I'd see that. One could just hope that the stripe, doesn't slow down, at least in that bunch.
Well, one thing that could fuel it, of course, is the way they released the Epstein files. They've done it in such a way that it just might anger more MAGA supporters. But I I think relying on MAGA supporters coming to their senses is probably a bad idea. Um, but Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to have, so maybe it's possible.
Well, if you tell people that costs have gone down and they clearly and demonstrably have not, then that is one lie that you can't really get away with. I mean, he can tell a
But
lot of lies where people won't know the difference, but that one they know.
Cognitive dissonance is a very powerful tool. I really think that there's a portion of the population that is so wrapped up in this, he has to be the second Messiah, that they will warp their brain into believing that he really did lower prices at somehow. Also, you guys keep talking about his age. So the longest serving ruler in human history was probably the worst ruler in human history. His name was Pepi II. He was Pharaoh of Egypt. we're not exactly sure how long he reigned, but we think it was about 100 years. I think he became pharaoh when he was 6 and he died when he was like 106. And he was such an awful ruler. He triggered a civil war that lasted 170 years. Don't rule out that Trump will just live for a really long time. Just really, really long time. Like if the plan is he'll eat too many McDonald's burgers and die, I think people are going to be really disappointed.
Well, the Meta's doing their robot thing, and you might just end up with a robot Donald, and there are people who
Yeah,
would vote for that.
they can download his personality into the AI and just have the AI run the United States for all eternity. That's Elon Musk's plan. So maybe he promised Trump that. Maybe that's why they're such good friends.
Are they such good friends anymore?
Yeah, I thought they reconciled. I thought they made it up.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. You don't hear much from Elon Musk these days. I think that he decided that
Too
his
busy
government run
defending,
was over.
he's too busy defending his $1 trillion pay plan.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. I was reading about that pay plan, and it's I think what happened was that they reinstated an earlier, so courts had overruled a pay plan that they had given him earlier, and a court just reversed that. But when the court reversed that, it undid this more recent pay plan that was going to be in the trillions of dollars or whatever. But that trillions of dollars thing, and I think any pay plan he gets depends on him meeting certain goals. He has to meet certain thresholds with the company. So the sales have to be at a certain place and productivity and whatever. And Tesla doesn't seem to be doing so well now. So I find myself wondering whether he would ever get the pay that he could potentially get if he did meet those thresholds because he can't meet them.
Yeah, they've had a lot of trouble with Tesla sales in Europe. I understand it went down dramatically, and California's been suing, Trump, Musk, and Tesla a lot, and they just challenged the use of the autopilot naming of their so-called driving system, and they labeled it false advertising. So they're penalizing Tesla for a lot of things in California right now.
Well, the other thing is that if Musk is depending on the success of Tesla to continue to fill his coffers, and if Trump is completely opposed to electric vehicles, there seems to
Yeah,
be a natural enmity there that might develop.
yeah. I still can't figure out. This is what I don't get about the oligarchs. Like, okay, you're Musk, and here's a guy trashing electric cars, and you're like, I'm gonna get him in the presidency. I'm gonna spend $100 million on getting him. Why? He's trashing your product. He hates you. He looks down on you. You're an immigrant of all things. I know you're a white immigrant, but still. Anyway, I was at the World Government Summit this year in Dubai, and I was listening. If you listen, there was a divide. There were the people from the US and then everybody else. Everybody else was like, oh my God, we're in so much trouble. I can't comprehend how we got another Trump administration. And almost all of the CEOs, oh, there was a divide within the US. The professors and the journalists were freaked out. The CEOs were lockstep in line with a couple of exceptions with Trump. It was bizarre. I would listen to them talk and it was like, dude, where did you find this Kool-Aid? Who laced it and what did they lace it with? I don't get it. Yeah, that's where I've been giving my talks, the Museum of the Future. Oh, I
John, you're
can't hear
muted.
you.
You're muted,
You're
John.
muted.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So, my understanding is Museum of the Future is a pretty big deal in Dubai, right? And that they're very future focused.
Oh, Dubai is totally future focused. They in 2023 they came up with a 50-year plan. Um, their goal is to somehow get into the future and to do it in as graceful and effective a way as possible. You know, and coming out of the United States where we don't even have a 2-year plan, right? We're just going from election to election, but even then, barely. There's no plan. The goal is to just hoodwink the voters. And what I can't understand is why the voters believe any candidate's promises ever. Like, how many times do you have to be lied to before you go, oh my God, these guys are all a bunch of lying crooks? And it's just so weird. How gullible is the US population? Anyway, so the Dubai is amazing. The plans that they have, their goals, their goal is innovation. If you're an innovator and you wanna leave the United States, this is not a bad place to end up.
Are they going to take
Right
over the
now, I have a
world?
friend who's working on making a rocket. Dubai is going to have its own space program. And the
Wow.
science that they've put into this rocket engine is insane. And I keep getting videos of their tests. And like it looks like something from the 23rd century. Like it doesn't look like a normal rocket engine. And that's the kind of stuff that Dubai is constantly thinking of. What's the next step? Like they have one of the largest solar panel fields in the world, and they were trying to figure out how to overcome the fact that, it's pretty dusty here. And they came up with a tower that has I think it's a magnesium light that it catches the sun and then it reflects it down into the solar panels. And so like everything is this layer upon layer upon layer. It's planned out, thought through. Uh, it's bizarre to see. I'm not used to that. I'm used to haphazard crazy.
What's the politics of Dubai like?
So there's 7 emirates in the UAE, and each emirate is different. It's a confederacy. It's not a state. The confederacy was created in 1971 at the moment of independence from the UK, and each of the 7 emirs has, a different worldview. Dubai is interesting because Abu Dhabi is the big one in land, and Abu Dhabi got the oil, and the other 6 really didn't get much. There's a little bit of oil, a little bit of natural gas, but Abu Dhabi is by far the majority of it. And so Dubai had to figure out how do we make it and do all right without having petroleum as the basis of our economy. So they went for tourism and they pulled it off on such a grand scale that Dubai makes 4 times as much money on tourism than Egypt does. And you would think, right, Egypt, like the country is just tourism, you would think. And the reality is Dubai, and I'm just talking about Dubai, I'm not talking about the UAE. Like Dubai has knocked it out of the park. Um, it's a really cool place. It's international. For those of you who hate immigrants, this don't come to Dubai. It's 89% immigrant. It is literally just 11% native. Um, One of the really weird things you can do is you can do this as an experiment. Take your laptop, set it down in a busy place, like in a mall, uh, and walk away, and then come back. You come back 3 hours later, the next day, doesn't matter. Your laptop will still be there. There's so little crime, it's bizarre. There's this sense of everybody kind of has a little bit of trust with each other, like you're in a community, even though everybody's from a different country. That's another thing that's also really cool about it. There's a huge population of kids who are just mixed. Um, so it's a culturally strange place. People tend to be really friendly, really sweet. There are jerks, of course, but like as a general rule, people tend to be pretty sweet. It's nice.
You said or you point out that it's a monarchy. Is the government responsive to the people?
So they actually have a program where every government agency has surveys that are constantly done. And the worst performing government agencies get dinged to the point where people get fired and replaced, because the goal of of Dubai especially, but the whole UAE, is that the government should be accountable to the people, and the government should be providing services for the people's benefit. And if the government is failing, they get dinged. So those agencies bend over backwards to figure out how to get stuff done, and because they want that rating. Oh, and so like when I was trying to get my sons their visa, the person behind the desk is like, I'm going to give you my WhatsApp number, and as we're going through the stages of getting your sons the visa, you just, any questions you have, any help you need, you can just text me. Like I'm not used to that. I can't comprehend that level of customer service. It took me 24 minutes to get my driver's license, and I mean my permanent license. I don't mean like a temporary driver's license. It was, and that
Population of
included an
Dubai.
eye test. What was
What's
that?
What? How many people in Dubai?
It's 11 million. Oh, in Dubai, so UAE is 11 million. I don't know. Dubai is probably 4, is my guess. 4 or 5.
And aren't a number of there's two classes of immigrants, right? There's your sort of expatriate immigrant who is,
Yes.
and then there's
And then there's
immigrants
the laborers.
laborers.
Yeah.
So the population they have to serve for driver's license is more like a small US state, right?
You mean because it's not everybody's getting driver's licenses?
Yeah.
Yeah. Considering how much traffic is on the road, I think a lot of people have driver's license.
Yeah, but there's
Obviously,
also a
there's
lot
a
of
portion of the
but
population
there's
that's
a lot of
taking buses.
but there's a lot of tourists on the roads as well, right? So
That's true, yeah.
I'm just trying
It
to,
take
one of the things, one of the problems in a country like the US or the UK is scale. The number of people you have to serve and the number of people you have to serve them with.
Sure. There's also such a thing as government efficiency. There's such a thing as we don't care anymore, and we're willing to just give you the crappiest service on earth because you'll just keep voting for us no matter what we do.
Well, the Division
And
of Motor Vehicles in most US states is not actually elected, right?
no, but the government that regulates them is.
Right. Right.
And there's no accountability anymore, because if you're in a red state, the red politicians are going to win. If you're in blue state, the blue politicians are going to win. There's no competition. The Texas is as democratic as the Soviet Union was, right? You knew the Communist Party was going to win. That was a done deal. So the only way you could have any input in the outcome of the election was if you voted in the Communist Party convention, because that's when they picked the guy that was going to run in the general election. Well, that's what we do. You vote in the primary. And if you live in a red district, you should vote in the Republican primary and vote for the lesser of the Republican evils. And if you live in a blue district, you have to do the same if you want to have any impact, because in November, you know what the outcome is going to be. Well, and with all the gerrymandering, it's even more like the Soviet Union. I mean, what's the difference between gerrymandering and vote rigging? It's just a different way of cheating.
Yeah, it's just a way to rig the vote. Yeah. Well, we have reached the end of the hour, actually. And I thought of a lot more to say, so we hope you'll come back soon. This has been great.
We love to have you back because you pull more than any of our other guests. Your most recent one before this was viewed by 14,000 people on YouTube. So you must have the touch that appeals to people.
I still don't know why. Well, thanks for having me on. I always love talking to you guys.
You can stay in touch with Plutopia at plutopia.io. On Facebook, look for @Plutopia News. On Twitter, it's @Plutopia. This is the Plutopia News Network, 20 minutes into the future.